here we are. I wanted to just talk about some things. I am Deb with Venus Theater. I'm the founder. Venus has created about 1,000 opportunities for artists, all stipend paid. So, and we've been around for 27 years, and then 5 years before that is Venus Envy. I just had this inspiration to talk about process and where I am in the process right now. So it's awkward because I'm talking to a screen. So I guess I'll say I wrote 2 books. They're both published, and now I'm recording an audiobook, which is sort of why I have new equipment. And the thing I've been thinking about, now that I've finished recording the entire book, listened to it and decided that's not what I wanted to do, so I'm going to go back to the beginning. And I guess the gift there is realizing that when I was producing and directing at Venus, I had 4 weeks, in the best case scenario, sometimes only 2 weeks, to land a show, and then 4 weeks to run it, and sometimes things were extended. So what happens if I don't worry about that? What happens if I don't worry about just having 4 weeks? What happens if I work on something until I'm okay with it? I'm okay to greenlight it. And I think it's bringing up a lot for me, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit in terms of feminism and patriarchy. And I think, I've been underestimated. I've been misunderstood, and I've been assumed. And I think that's true of a lot of people. I'm not saying I'm unique in that way. But to the degree that it's a relief not to be in those environments that underestimate me or try to erase me, to create my own environment where I get to just create. I just get to make things. Feels really good because I've had ideas stolen from me. And through all of this, I feel like, women, the word that comes up for me is tattletale. Don't be a tattletale. Little girls are told that from early elementary school, at least I was. Stop being a tattletale. And it's kind of like, what does that mean? You're telling on people, don't tell on them. What does that do when little girls become teenagers and something happens and you don't want to tattle on somebody? It's kind of a bad thing, And I know even today, but definitely when I was a young child, I could talk. I could convey a diatribe for 3 hours without ever taking a breath. And I know that must have been a lot for the adults around me. And I know that they handled it the best way they could figure out. But I think this whole tattletale thing conveys into the Karen of like, look at that white woman. She's such a bitch. She's always finding fault. She's crazy over the top. And when you look at something like, say, current events and what we're finding out about women and how exploited we are by the numbers, technically agreed upon statistics, then it's probably not good to invest in stereotypes. I don't think it's ever been good to invest in stereotypes. Anyway, I say all of that just to say I'm really pleased with the work that I've done. And yet, I have so much more to do. We have a band that we're really excited about. We have 3 new songs that we're working on. And I'm going to start recording this audiobook from the beginning. And the first time I did it, it was over 9 hours. And that doesn't mean it takes 9 hours to record it. Triple or quadruple that. That's how long it takes to record, edit, and all the rest, depending on where we're going. So I have some new equipment I'm still figuring out, and I'm going to try to take it 25 to 30 pages at a time. And so in these 30 pages coming up, it's everything up until my first professional acting job when I was 17 years old at Wild World Theme Park. and we were housed at the Sofari So Goody, which was an abandoned snack shop with no electricity, and it's where they kept the elephants the year before when they were still having elephants. Only the elephants, had water. And it was the best summer of my young life, and I think about leading up to that, and all of there's dark story. I think a lot of people have dark story, but there's life, and how we laugh through, how we manage to make our way through is sort of a beautiful thing. And I remember Jimmy, and I start my book talking about him and talking about measuring life in JLTs. There's Ziggy. Hi, Zig. Jimmy Lifetimes, JLTs. So Jimmy was, I think he was actually a distant cousin, but he was, whoa. Okay, try this again. You're my mama. Okay, try it this way. Oh no, what just happened? I don't know. Okay, try it this way. Okay, here we go. What was it? I don't know. Oh my god, something's happening. I'm slipping. Okay, here we go. All right. So, something crazy just happened, so we're back. Are we back? Yes. So, talking about Jimmy, who I think just interfered. Maybe he doesn't want me talking about him. But JLTs are Jimmy Lifetimes. Jimmy only lived to be 4 years old because he had leukemia. And I was his wingman. I was his side guy. And so we got away with anything and everything, because what I didn't know, what all the adults knew, was that he was dying. So I was his best friend, his sister. We lived together. Our parents were both getting divorced, so both of our mothers lived together. So he and I were bathed together, and all that stuff. Slept in the same, I was 5, he was 4. And when he died, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what death was. But through my life, I felt like maybe I've had this blue collar ghost protection or something. I don't know. I remember laughing with him, and I talk about that in the book. And as I go through my life, people have said, you're scrappy, you're so intense, whatever. What they don't usually understand is how qualified I am and how I'm actually an expert in my field. So I wanted to talk now about that, maybe just a little bit, at least to admit that I know that about myself. And that for me, yes, I was producing 4 usually brand new plays for women every year for an extended period of time, and it almost killed me. And why? Why was I kicking it out so hard? Why was I covered in paint? Why was I grungy? Why did we have an all, essentially, except for Neil and a couple of awesome dudes, but mostly an all-female crew, sometimes working in sports bras with the drills and the saws and the ladders and the ceiling. And why were we all so impassioned? Because we loved it, and because we wanted to tell these stories, and mostly because the collaborative nature of bonding is an exceptional, incredible thing. So for me, looking back now, and I'll be 60 years old this year, so now I can really reflect a little bit, I see that I could feel a window closing in our culture, right? Now that we're in a time of terrible theater, what Peter Brooks would call deadly theater. Only it's not even on the stage, it's in our world. Deadly theater in our lives, in our world, right? I think I could feel that coming. And I think I knew I had this window of an opportunity, and it was closing. And it started from just producing in DC, from being mugged on the steps of the Women's Empowerment Center near H Street, and then being told, what did I expect? I was a white girl in a black neighborhood. I'm a walking target. Why complain? Why cry? Get over it and adopt the kid. He probably needs a mother. Fuck you. Like, no. And then to to look at DC and to see the Douglas development signs popping up, even as I was renting spaces at the warehouse, at DCAC, collaborating with Phoenix Theater at 1409 Playbill Cafe, performing solo shows in the corner of feminist bookstores in DuPont Circle, up on the second floor, with sex toys on the wall, and just doing all of that. I didn't have time to record it or talk about it because I was doing it. And that's kind of the point I want to make. We have a lot of narrative. We have a lot of instruction about how things can happen, but we don't have a lot of inquiry about how did it happen and why did you make those choices. And, all that self-discovery stuff is now this woo-woo whatever. And so we're not learning and we're not growing. And, I've done about 8 different solo shows. I can hold down a 2-hour show with an intermission. And that's a thing. Like, that's a thing to be able to do that. And I feel like anytime I've done something, it's like, of course, if she can do it, I can do it. Of course it's not. If she can do it, it can't be that difficult. And I've never wanted to be the one to be like, it is difficult. Because it was fun for me and it was my passion for me. And so I just let all that stuff roll. I just let it slide. And when people were misbehaving, there was a period in my directorial career where I was incredibly confrontational and just acting like male directors that I had worked under, throwing erasers at boards and screaming and mantruming. And, women can't do that. I mean, we even have a slight emotion and we're hysterical. So only men can do that, which brings me around to feminism and patriarchy. And we talk about feminism in terms of women, in terms of wanting equality. But we rarely talk about feminism for men. And I know I'm being polarizing by whatever it's called. But the truth is that's how Dick and Jane were taught to us when we were young. So that's our frame of reference, the binary. So I think that men have they've only been allowed to get angry or stay silent and expected to carry the financial weight and expected to be proud to do that. You know what I mean? So when we talk about feminism, rarely do we talk about in the binary what it means for men. It's quickly interpreted that men hate women, or women hate men, men hate women. Right, that's the whole storyline. That's not the whole storyline. I think that what we've not captured is that men are human beings and they have a whole range of feelings and emotions, and they're generally not allowed to. And that's how we end up with psychopaths. That's how we end up with these men who are imploding and exploding all over the place, sometimes with semi-automatic weapons, sometimes just being a puppet for someone they think is stronger than them or more masculine than them. And it's a race to masculinity. And that's all bullshit because men are human beings. And so I say all that, I don't know why I say all that, is because it's a part of the imbalance. And the work I've done at Venus, there's only been one time in our more than 70, probably closer to 100 productions, that there have been more men than women on stage. Again, I'm speaking in the binary because this is the world that I come from. And this is the time I was producing. So in that one time, it was very challenging for me because even though they were all great guys, there's a default where they don't necessarily view me as qualified as they are, even if they're a novice. And there's one particular time I talk about in my book where I'm called in to perform at what we used to call the Sewell Belmont House. I know the name's changed now. And I was tuning my guitar, but I was so nervous because I was doing a 10-minute monster truck rally musical in this historic, revered place. And I was like tuning backwards. I was so woof. And one of my actors, this guy, was like, "Do you want me to do that for you?" And I said, do you play? And he goes, "No, but if you can do it, I can, So as a woman in the patriarchy, there's just been this constant assumption that if I can do it, it must be nothing. It must be a no-brainer. It must be base, you know? And to all those people who assume that, I want to say, fuck you. Because what I've done has been incredibly challenging. The management skills alone to land every single show, no matter who was cast. And yes, I went through periods of firing people. During one particular period, there was just a running joke that I would turn you into a hand puppet, because I did that, for an actor who was just crazy. And, it was like, I'm sorry, your character's now a puppet and we don't need your acting ability anymore. Or for the woman who just dropped out after a major tragedy in my life, after I lost Trisha, first production back, she drops out halfway through the process. And so I turned her into a silk fern and had a stage manager come on and read the lines, and the fern had more talent. So people say, you're so nice. I'm not nice. I've loved doing what I do. And maybe it's been a mistake that people think I'm nice. Maybe my kindness has been mistaken for weakness. So as I go back in to begin again, I just want to keep checking in here to let you know where I'm at in my process, because I feel that I've been misinterpreted, misunderstood. I've been called a dramaturg, when I've helped someone, not realizing I'm actually a professional producer and director, nothing against dramaturgs, but it's like being called a costumer when I walked in, to a project with all men. And no, I'm a director. And that maybe because I'm older, maybe that's not the case anymore, but I kind of think it is based on my some recent experiences. So fuck you is really what I want to say. And to the people who have taken my direction, to the people who have supported the work, honestly, thank you. And I just want to clarify, in my own binary, I stand in the fuck you and the thank you. And that's where I stand. And I'm not nice in between. And I'm going to move forward and read 30 pages now. And I just hope we're clear. Thanks.